Hey guys, I wanted to get a little bit oriented with everybody and visit a little bit here on the issue of methodology with our week 11. That's where we are now. Let's see, week 11 is runs from the 27th of March to the 2nd of April, and it's our humanism, and then we wrap up on pin and method this week as well. So we're wrapping up this tour de force through Pin's book this week. So here we are, and I thought I'd note that in week 9 and 10, we had 6 people in the discussion threads, which is fine. People get to decide on this whole quest format, how you want to participate. But there's some really good work going on in there. And if you don't check in as we move along, you're missing on an opportunity to make the work more understandable. Personally, I'd recommend the weekly discussion, the weekly discipline of participating in the discussion thread. So if you think of this as a weekly discipline, then as we go along in week 9, you would have been working your way through the voodoo and ashe stuff. Very complex, lots of vocabulary. There was very good work being done in there to try and get a handle on that vocabulary. Then week 10, in our discussion of Islam, became pretty clear in the discussion threads that there's a difference between Islam, and that's why I posted the Islam intro notes, so that there is Islam, which developed out of Arabia with the Prophet Muhammad, and then there's the unique thing that happened in America called the Nation of Islam. And to Muslims who are trained in Orthodox Sunni or Shia Islam, what happened in America with the Nation of Islam is heretical. It is not true Islam. And so I want to make sure that as you guys were studying Malcolm X and trying to get a handle on that, that you're clear that Islam is one name of a tradition. And Nation of Islam certainly was appealing to the doctrine of Islam, but it created a whole new prophet, and the Mahdi, right, would be heretical to actual Islam. So that's part of what we covered in week 11. Now here we are in week 10, Islam in America. In week 11, humanism and method. And here we go to our discussion thread. And there's a handsome, famous humanist. And we've had some interesting discussions about who this is, right? That's the name the famous African-American humanist question there, as well as why would humanism be included in a book on varieties of African-American religious experience. So I wanted to tap onto that question because Pin is very dense at the very beginning of this. He covers humanism in Europe in, 2 pages, the history of the growth of humanism, all the way bringing us up to humanism in the United States. And if you are not a reader of Petrarch or Cicero, you might be wondering what in the world is going on in an African-American religious culture class. So he is giving you the roots. Never doubt that Pin is first and foremost a very powerful historian and theologian, and he understands the historical roots of any of the religious ideas of the 20th, 21st century. So he is going to start with the earliest discoveries in Europe of Greek philosophy that brought the style of Greek argument into Christian ideas. So humanism begins out of the very Christian context of um, the early European embrace of Platonic philosophical and Aristotelian ideas. And so he says there on page 155, the centrality of human life in a less than ideal world is present within humanism at this stage, in that humanist scholars saw little value in abstract theological discussion when people were struggling to live ethically. So the earliest roots of humanism begin amongst Christians who are trying to make sense of the importance of human action in a less than ideal world. And so rather than worrying about how many angels can fit on the head of a pin, they wanted to bring it right down into how do I do the right thing today. So he goes on to say that as in the Renaissance, humanists of this period, so once you hit the Reformation, and the Reformation happens when Catholics begin to question Catholic practices and they begin to protest Catholic practices, that develops into the Protestant Reformation, and then Catholics also respond. That's called the Counter-Reformation. So he's sweeping you through history here. So by the time you get to the Reformation, people are still thinking within a Christian frame. He says, as in the Renaissance, humanists of this period still understood humanism in terms of the liberal arts, the acquaintance with ancient thought as a way of addressing current moral questions. Right? I have a moral question today. What is right about having a king? And I'm going to look to the liberal arts and appeal to our earliest Greek philosophical and artistic traditions to answer this question. These things are all human products, right? Greek philosophy is a human product. The human arts are a human product. Human music is a human product. Then we move into a more contemporary discussion on page 156. What does humanism actually look like? And he turns to Corliss Lamont as a kind of spokesperson for contemporary humanism. That there are multiple kinds of humanism: scientific, secular, naturalistic, or democratic, but all of them are grounded in the aesthetically rich natural world, its evolving nature and observable laws. Humanity is regarded as an inseparable component of nature. Though human life is fraught with hardships, humanity is capable of addressing its problems through appeal to reason and the scientific method. Humanism is committed to the development, through continual self-reflection and critique, of a healthy world based upon democratic principles. I'm not going to read these too long Lamont quotes, but the point is that he brings the questions regarding the meaning of life into the realm of human reason and proposes that the scientific methods of the social sciences, the humanities, and empirical sciences, that it is that use of reason and thesis and argument that are the greatest tools for arriving at a meaning that anyone can actually identify the source of authority for that meaning, right? This is different than having a divine who is the source of authority. You are looking to human reason, and you are looking to the skills of argument and scientific method as your demonstrable proofs. All right. So how does this relate to religion as orientation? I want to give you this little picture. Here we go. This is how Keller, drawing from Long, thinks of religious person, right? So religious person, and though this is an individual figure there is no such thing as an individual, right? No man is an island. No woman is a volcano. Should we say that? I can be on a wrong day, but this figure of the person should be understood as a person in community, right? So this is for simplicity. This could have all kinds of different abled bodies, different colored bodies, different gendered bodies, different race bodies, different class bodies. It is a human representation of a human in community, who has an overarching umbrella of meaning, right, that we think of as cosmology, and always pressing in on the side of the human community is mortality, the kind of cliff of mortality. Now, if you've got Ashe, then you have over on this overarching cosmology, you have the Yoruba pantheon informing you of your African roots and tying you to the power of the divine, right? In the case of humanism, how does this work? I think I'm going to draw here from this first quote by Lamont Corliss. The humanist philosophy persistently strives to remind men and women that their only home is in this mundane world, and humanism is interested in a future life, not in the sense of some fabulous paradise in the skies, but as the ongoing enjoyment of earthly existence by generation after generation through eternities of time. So what you find humanists doing, which is just like what you find Christians doing, and the people of Yoruba traditions and the people of Voodoo traditions, is determining a sense of ultimate significance through the three most important orienting points. Where did we come from? The past. And that becomes Big Bang. We have a scientific theory that tells us about where we came from and how the world came into being. What do we do while we are here? What is our present action, our ethics, and our morals? And for humanism, that comes out of a human rights discourse that requires equality to all and religious freedom, as well as the freedom to not be religious in that traditional sense of religious. So you use a human rights discourse as your ethic and your moral. And the question about the future and what's the ultimate significance of my death for my community becomes not one of a paradise or a heaven, a movement into heaven, but rather the desire for ongoing generation after generation to be able to enjoy an ecologically sustainable life. Okay, so in some ways you might think, all right, so human gets rid of a divine realm, but this is the part that is easy to misunderstand. I mean, that's true, but that you nevertheless have metaphysical concepts when you are a humanist. You have a story of beginning, you have a moral code for a present, and you have a concern with the future. So that the humanist world does not have a divine God authorizing and directing you. Nevertheless, it provides an orientation to the ultimate significance of being human. That's why they're called humanists, right? The ultimate significance is that you're human. It is this mundane world that you have, and it is passing it on to future generations that is your purpose. So that's how I would like to complement Pin's discussion of humanism in his book, Varieties of African American Religious Experience.